There you go. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started here. My phone tells me it's 6:30. Call to order the January meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. First item, really, we have, these are members, right? Others have already contacted, so we're okay. We have a quorum, so we're all set there. Hello. We have approval of the minutes for our last meeting was in August. And people had a copy of the minutes in their packet. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, I'd entertain a motion for accept the minutes.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Okay.
Yeah.
Minutes, yes, okay. Make that one quick and simple. We have one item of new business on our agenda. And it's for 226 Ormsby Street. And I assume you're here to speak on that?
Yes, sir.
If you'd like to just kind of take the podium. And you're Dave Snyder, I assume?
I am.
All right, just kind of give us a real quick brief what we're dealing with here and how we got in this situation.
Okay. We have property at 226 Ormsby Street, and then around the corner is 710 Front Street. Both properties are on one deed or whatever. And we're looking to sell the property. And right now, the properties are being used as each one is rented out. And our realtor advised us that we would probably have a better chance of selling them if we could separate them into two separate properties. And because the market would be broader for people looking for single family homes than for investment properties. There's probably a bigger market for that right now. So we're looking to do that, and we didn't know what steps to take until I came down, started talking to Kristen Brown, and then Mr. Clement here advised us what we needed to do was apply to you guys, and that's kind of where we're at right now at this point. Kristen said that it would not only benefit us, but if it's possible to make the variance, that city would obviously be at an advantage tax wise, probably.
How did we get in this situation with two on one plot like this?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It's probably been that way.
Oh, it goes back years and years.
Right.
Yeah.
Because those houses are at least 50 years old, maybe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what used to happen on the east side a lot is that people would own a property that they lived in, and then they would have a business next door, on the lot next door. And I believe that at one time, that shop was an old plumbing shop or something like that. And the one kitty cornered across the street was an electrical shop, and there was tons of that stuff that went on back in the day. And then somewhere along the line that got converted to, my mother bought that property back in the 70s, and it was two properties, two residential properties at that time. And then I purchased it from her in, I don't know, probably late 70s, early 80s, like that. So we've used it as rental property, but we're looking to get out of the rental business, and so just hoping that we can do something like that.
Do you think we have many of these around town or not? Are we going to be dealing with this?
I'm not aware of a lot of situations where you have two structures on one parcel. And they're probably not, they weren't platted that way. But they were combined at whatever point and built in such a way that they're too close together. And certainly we have lots of non-conforming structures all over the place, but this one becomes a problem only because they want to insert a side lot line between the two of them. And, like the applicant says, it probably benefits everybody, particularly having owner occupied dwellings there. And, it's not a huge variance that they're asking for. So staff did support it.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, personally, I don't have any, issue with it. I just wasn't trying to think if there's gonna be anything else coming up or just similar to this. Does it have to do, are we gonna end up with some that are closer together yet, or I can't get much closer, I don't think. So that was just a question I had is what.
I don't think
Commissioners,
there's,
questions?
I don't think there's a ton of them left up there that are like
Yeah.
that, that I'm aware of, but I don't know about other parts of the city, but
Commissioners, questions?
Pretty clear.
So in the packet, because this is a kind of strange one, under the recommendations, that's what the variance would be. And then there's also a resolution that, similar to the way the city commission does, you could just move to pass the resolution rather than saying all of it out if you'd like to.
Understood.
Up to
Oh,
you-
okay,
up to you how you want to do it.
rather than going through the finding of fact, I mean,
No.
Well, when you go to make the motion, you can either read the
Okay.
recommendation.
Find the fact.
okay, we should have
And then
find
the
a
motion
fact.
will
Move
just
the
be to
board, move
adopt
the
the
rest.
resolution.
Gotcha, okay. Fair. I know we're streaming. Do we have anything online? Anybody that has anything to say or? Not hearing anybody, so. To grant a variance, we need to go through some finding of fact. So we'll work our way through these. Number one. There are practical difficulties, unnecessary hardships to prevent carrying out the strict letter of the ordinance. These hardships or difficulties shall not be deemed economic, but shall be evaluated in terms of use of parcel of land. In response to this, we have that the zoning ordinance does not allow for two residentials on a single parcel. So it's a reasonable way to conform to the requirements is by varying the side setback requirements as they relate to the new side lot line. Find affirmative on this. Number two, general hardship exists because of unique circumstances, physical conditions such as narrowness, shallowness, shape, topography of the property involved, or the intended use of the property. They do not generally apply to other properties, uses in the same district, and shall not be recurrent in nature. Property definitely is non-conforming, having two particular principal residence on that. It's not that common in the city, but due to the size of the property, the owner, there's no way that they're gonna be able to meet the requirements on the setbacks of the ordinance. So I would find affirmative for that. Three, the hardship or special conditions or circumstances do not result in actions by the applicant. As far as I know, you didn't build those two houses on that one lot, so.
no, sure didn't.
It's not the result of anything that the applicant did. Number four, that the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose intent of this ordinance and shall not cause any substantial adverse effects on the surrounding property values, and use and enjoyment of the property in the neighborhood or district. This variance will not bring the property any closer. Nothing's really going to change. It's just going to change on the books, basically. And the buildings are still going to be the same as they currently are and have been for a number of years. So I find affirmative for number four. Number five, the granted variance will not confer the applicant any special privileges that are denied by the ordinance to other land, structures, and buildings in the same district. The variance would not confer any special privileges and would be, but would rather bring the applicant's property closer to the overall conformation. So I find there that the variance requested is the minimum amount necessary to overcome the the inequality inherent to a particular property or mitigate the hardship. As the applicant is requesting the minimum variance necessary to divide the property, whereas the setback 8 foot is required, the request is follows. The west lot line would be 5.5 0.5, the east would be 6 feet. So I'd find affirmative for number 6, sorry. Number 7, the variance shall not permit establishment within a district or any use which is not permitted by right within a district, zoning district, or any use for which a special use permit or temporary use permit is required. The request is not a true variance request, so there was no problem there. Based on all the items that find affirmative, I find that we can entertain a motion unless there's any other questions anybody has. Hearing,
Move to
okay.
approve the request for the variance and to adopt the resolution that staff has provided.
We have a motion. Do we have support? All right. Any questions on the motion from the commissioners? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Jacobitz,
Yes.
Beely,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Berthold,
Yes,
motion passed unanimously.
you're all set. Simple as that.
You guys are easy to work with.
In this particular.
Yeah, I gotta say, some people don't think that at times, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, see no old business, future business, anything anybody needs to bring up? No, good.
Jeremiah, does that need to go to planning commission for a lot split, or is that an administrative issue?
That'd be administrative.
Okay,
Okay, so if there are no further questions, zoning board, we are adjourned and planning commission will begin in about 20 minutes.
Thank you.
you're welcome. Folks, it's 7 o'clock and we will call to order the January meeting of the Adrian City Planning Commission. Jeremiah, if you would call roll, please.
Yes, sir. Jacobitz,
Here.
Love,
Present.
Weatherby,
Present.
Johnson,
Present.
Watson,
Present.
Taylor,
Present.
Cotton,
Here.
Roberts,
Here.
all members present.
Very well, thank you. Next item on our agenda is consideration of our December minutes. Commissioners, you have a copy of the December minutes, and I presume you've had an opportunity to review those. The one thing I noted is on what is numbered page 4. It's the first page of the minutes. Under new business, the second paragraph that reads, "There being no further discussion, Commissioner Watson moved," and it should read, "moved approval of the proposed schedule." Moved approval of the proposed schedule and moved to approve the proposed.
No,
schedule.
ordinance amendment.
Yeah, it was not a amendment. Were there any other additions or corrections to the December minutes? If there are none, we would entertain a motion for their approval.
Move approval as with the change as noted.
Support,
Support.
Taylor and Johnson. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate so as corrected, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is case number 2201, which is adoption of the city's comprehensive land use plan. Commissioners, this was distributed at least last month, if not before that, and everyone has had an opportunity to review that. It has been set to the city commission, and I believe they have distributed it to the surrounding townships. And we did get some response from the county planning commission. Is that correct, Jeremiah?
Yes, it's in your packet from the Lenawee County Planning Commission.
Okay,
I included that and that was their report on it
okay.
in the
And
minutes.
we didn't hear back from any of the individual townships.
No,
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the planning commission on the new, what I would call the 2021 comprehensive plan? Okay. Hearing none, Commissioners, is there any discussion? I realize that we have reviewed and discussed this ad infinitum. If there is no additional discussion, we do need to formally adopt it. Staff has provided a resolution to that extent that is on page 13, I believe it is. And unless there's any additional discussion, we would entertain a motion to adopt that resolution as presented.
Move to approve the resolution.
Support.
Commissioner Love and Commissioner Taylor, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Jeremiah, a roll call vote, please.
Roberts,
Yes.
Watson,
Approve.
Weatherby,
Support.
Cotton,
Yes.
Johnson,
Support.
Taylor,
Support.
Jacobitz,
Yes,
Love,
Yes.
motion passed unanimously.
okay, that is adopted. Next item on our agenda, case 2203, 1219 East Church, which is a rezoning request. If I understand correctly, this is not so much a rezoning. It is technically a rezoning, but it's not a change in the zoning district, but to have this property included in the east side marijuana overlay. Let me take just a minute to review how we proceed with requests for rezoning. Any requests for a rezoning is acted on by the planning commission. However, any action that we take is in the form of recommendation to the city commission. This change requires that's change in the city zoning ordinance, and that authority rests with the city commission. So anything we do is in the form of a recommendation to them. The criteria that we must use in making a recommendation is specified by the city ordinance. We need to consider what identifiable conditions related to the application have changed and would therefore justify the proposed change. Are there any precedences that would be created by either approving or denying this petition? What is the impact on the ability of the city and other governmental units to provide adequate public services that might be reasonably required in the future if the request is granted? Does the request to change negatively affect environmental conditions or the value of surrounding properties? What is the ability of the property in question be put to a reasonable economic use as it is presently zoned? These are the criteria upon which any decision must be based. And while these are somewhat subjective, we are expected to submit to the city commission a finding of fact based on these criteria. So in order to consider evidence for or against this request, we will conduct a public hearing in which we will review the presented evidence. We will hear first from the petitioner or the representative and ask that they give us a brief overview of their request and their justification for that request. We will review any written comments or documentation received from the public. We will then hear comments from the public either in favor of or in opposition to the proposed change. And we will also consider the recommendations and comments from the city planning staff. And once we've heard and considered that evidence, then we may decide to render a recommendation this evening or may postpone action to give the matter additional consideration. With that said, is there someone here that represents the petitioner? And sir, if you would step forward to the podium and identify yourself for our records.
Good evening.
And-
My name is
and-
Terry Frankor.
And Mr. Frankor, if you'd briefly tell us what it is you're asking for. And as I understand it, and in fact, as I recall, we considered this exact same request just like
2 years ago, almost to the.
was it 2 years
to the-
ago?
Yeah.
Okay. And so people may have questions for you, but one of the questions I would have is what has changed since it was denied 2 years ago? You know,
Okay, do you want me to answer that now or?
well, I'll give your presentation, but
Yeah,
maybe
'cause I think
include that
I'll-
in there. Mhm.
I didn't, are you finished?
Yes.
Okay,
I
I'm
finished.
not the smartest with procedural
Okay.
stuff, so please excuse me. What's changed? When we were here 2 years ago, I remember the zoning commission and the city commission, you know, seemed steadfast and resolute in the marijuana overlay as originally written with no changes. And while we all know that's changed quite a bit, excuse me, in the last year or so. And with the consideration of the addition into the overlay west, I just thought it was time to reconsider overlay east. I've had the property for sale for over 2 years. The only interest we have is from people that are calling thinking that it's in the overlay and would purchase the building if it were. In the last 12 months, I've only had one showing of that business that was not marijuana related, resulting in no offer. In the last few weeks, I've done some investigating and I would encourage you to look at the benefits to the city can realize in tax revenues. I mean, I looked up some of the similar buildings over on the east side of Adrian, Railroad Street, East Michigan Street, Beecher Street, and what the city collected in taxes on those properties before they were created and included in the overlay as compared to what you collect now. Yeah, I have that wrote down here. I mean, I don't know if you want to see it. I could distribute these packages. They've got a few.
Just give us the thumbnail.
Okay, yeah, they've got a few pictures. East Michigan Street, 2018 combined summer and winter was $5,852. 2020 combined was $42,680. Low Street, winter combined, was only $1,400. In 2020, it was $31,522. With similar things on East Beecher. I can't sell the building. I no longer operate a business there. You know, it's a drain on me. It's becoming a blight to the city. When you could put a functioning business in that's going to hire a dozen people, probably pay them prevailing good wages. I think I just see all good upsides for the city as well as myself. I mean, I need to sell the property and nobody's buying it. But it is a valuable property to some people if it could be used in a manner. There's really no other industry coming to town. I'm sorry to say, but it's, if there were, I would gladly sell to them. Yeah, it's really all I have to say tonight is I would fiscally, I mean, it's, you could make, you know, I would expect similar or higher taxable gains, you know, for plus personal property tax for the business. I think you're missing out, or the city's missing out on an opportunity to make tens of thousands of dollars. And I guess I'll yield the floor now.
Questions for the,
I'm
questions,
sorry.
Commissioner, questions for the petition? Thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Did we receive any written or phone comments on this petition?
No, we did not.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the planning commission on this particular matter? If you'd come forward to the podium and identify yourself for our records and tell us what you'd like.
My
to tell us.
name's James Bunchu. I'm the property owner of 1222 East Maumee, which is adjacent to the property. I think some of you know me from,
Right across the street.
well, it's next door. It's right
Oh,
next door.
Okay,
There's a city alley between our buildings. Some of you may know me from buying the building. My feeling on this as the neighbor is I think it's a very good thing for the city. While I'm not in the marijuana business, I've never been in the marijuana business. In the career that I was in, I was an undercover trooper in the Michigan State Police, and I retired after 25 years, worked in the Pittsfield Township area for quite some time. I know what marijuana does to an area. I know what it can do to an area financially from my experience there. It's going to help Adrian. What I know from talking with Mr. Rising is that they have had a lot of people that wanted to see the property for that reason, and they haven't purchased it. It's been 2 years. What I see next to my building is a building that's not selling. It's going to do nothing but help me. If that place gets bought with whatever kind of business goes in there, it's going to raise it because it's going to look better and it's going to raise the value of my property. If it's marijuana, you guys know marijuana facilities better than I do at this point. I'm sure. What I would think is that if someone goes in there and does that, they're going to have security. They're going to have good security. They're going to have lighting. They're going to have good lighting, and it's going to do nothing but benefit me. I'm glad there's one going across the street from me for the same reasons. So I think it would do nothing but benefit the city if he could get the option. And he's not even saying he's going to do that. He just wants to have the option. So I think it would be a big benefit to the city. It would do something on that west side of town that we all know needs some work, always has. So from the neighbor that actually showed up, I'm in support of it, 100%.
Thank you.
Yes. Any questions for me?
Good evening, Jeff Rising, broker owner of Remax Main Street Realty and listing broker of said property. Had the listed first in October of 2019, and as Terry mentioned, nearly every single phone call we get about it is someone expecting that they could put a marijuana grow facility in the building. So it's a very large building, nearly 15,000 square feet of space. The last list price was down to 183, which is if anybody knows anything about commercial property, that's a ridiculously low price for 15,000 square feet of space. So in what you mentioned about the economic viability or impact of the property in its current state, I would say it's zero. It's been listed for over 2 years, had zero interest except for one person out of over a dozen that had any interest that was not a marijuana grow facility, and he never pulled the trigger on making an offer. So I feel like I'm a pretty decent real estate broker. I sell a lot of property, but I can't sell this one in its current zoning. So I would ask for your reconsideration in adding it to the overlay district, which, as you know, is literally feet away across Gulf Street. And I really think we could sell that property quickly and get a viable owner in there in an operation and upgraded electrical, upgrade the building, and just kind of clean up that corner from what's soon becoming a blighted, empty building with no occupants. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the staff recommendations. Is there anything that either of you would like to add?
Well, I'll just point out that this is it's got my name on it because I wrote it back in
2 years ago, yeah.
yeah, 2 years ago, and it's just the exact same report, except for the asterisk there at the top. So we did not observe any thing that had changed that would justify changing our recommendation. And as you know, at the time, it was unanimously recommended for denial by the Planning Commission and unanimously denied by the City Commission. And we don't see that conditions have changed since that time.
Okay, thank you. With that having been said, we'll close the public hearing portion of this particular item and we will go to Planning Commission discussion.
All right, well, I mean, I can kind of see his point as being a property owner in the city of Adrian. I know we don't want to do this just one property because we don't want to open ourselves up to spot zoning or anything like that. But I would ask the question, is there going to come a point when we are going to review the initial overlay and maybe make some tweaks or open things up a little bit? Because, I mean, living in that neighborhood, I'm about 3 blocks away. The building pretty much is just gonna sit there and it's gonna rot and it's gonna end up back with the city when eventually they get tired of paying the taxes. I mean, if we're gonna be proactive about blight and things like that, which obviously is one of the biggest things people have pointed out to us during the master plan, that and being open to, businesses and things like that and not putting up so many walls and turning things down for no reason, like, is there going to come a point when we are going to sit down and look at this again? Because
I hear exactly what you're saying and I tend to agree with it. I would suggest though that our denial in the past was not for no reason. It was with good reason.
I'm not disagreeing with
Okay,
that. I'm
okay.
just saying that over the course of 2 years, we obviously have seen that they haven't been able to sell the property
Mhm.
and it basically has no value if no one wants it. So, like I said, I understand why we can't change this because of spot zoning, but is there going to be an opportunity at some point where we could add in maybe these 2 blocks that are here? I mean, is that anything the city's actually looking into to have an option? in
The other
future?
thing to consider is how much marijuana are we willing to tolerate? I mean, this makes it sound negative, and I don't mean it that way. But how much of our city are we willing to turn over to marijuana production or retail? We already.
How many
have-
liquor stores are you gonna have?
Well,
Are we gonna regulate that? Are we
Well,
gonna
we
regulate
do
the number
to
of
a certain
pizza
extent.
places?
yeah,
Okay, so we're gonna regulate the number of restaurants?
Yeah.
We can't go down that road.
okay.
It's
Well, we,
The thing we need to look at, I agree with Kara, is we need to look at, let's revisit the map.
Okay.
Because this is all industrial property. Why did we do the one piece on the end? I think our argument 2 years, not argument, but our discussion 2 years ago was we made it,
Or when,
we
or
passed it. Let's let it stew.
what was
and
our,
sit
what was
there.
our discussion
I
when we
agree.
designed the map in the first place?
Industrial property,
Yeah,
which this is all industrial property.
yeah.
but why did we not include it? Was it because of the proximity to the church? If we did the whole 2 blocks?
Well, that wouldn't really matter because I've been through this with alcohol.
But we did this.
I can be approved to be in a certain area, but if I am near the church, even if the whole area is approved, I would still get denied for anything that's too close to that church. So that really doesn't have any grounds
Okay.
here,
All right.
because with alcohol, it's the same way.
And so
Like,
maybe this
Except that
property on the
technically
corner-
it's not close enough to be an issue.
right, on this particular
Yeah.
property, but we're
Yeah.
saying if we,
Yeah.
if we.
If we did other
choose-
parts.
Right,
yes, it
so that
would
we're
be.
not spot zoning, which like I said, I
I mean,
understand.
I'm
that's
not
the
opposed to
issue.
looking at, like she said, look,
Yes, looking.
to
in
do just this
general.
one, no,
Right, I know we can't do that, but,
because then we open up, why are you just picking this
It's-
one and that one?
right, I
But-
mean, this
Yeah.
map was done before I even was on the planning commission, and I've been here almost 4 years, so it kind of seems like it's probably about time to look at this again, maybe. Like I'm saying, not this one, not spot zoning, not this property, but in
Re-
general, I.
Revisit the
it
overlay in general.
Seems like we need to look at it
Mhm.
and try to figure out properties that have no other value that are in industrial areas, because we really just want another building rotting on the east side, because that's what we're looking at here.
Well, on the other hand, to say that it has no value. And not to, Mr. Bunshu has adopted the property right next door as an artist studio.
Right,
As a-
but he didn't buy this gigantic.
No, but
building
I'm just
that's-
saying that that kind of demonstrates that there are things that can be done with those properties other than marijuana.
Well, it's an industrial property. We could put horrible things in there probably.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
I
could,
mean,
Or-
somebody could come along and buy the whole block and put something terrible that
exactly.
spews stuff out of its
Yeah.
smokestack.
well,
And theoretically, yes,
yes.
is that,
Well,
I'm on the same page.
Yep. Mr. Taylor,
well, I've looked at this 100 times, I guess, in the last week or so. And my one question was, why did we leave that stretch out?
That was my
Yeah,
question too.
yeah, and,
Especially with one
know
on the
why.
end.
Well, especially with the one on the
One
end.
on the
yeah.
end of the next block. Why did that one get picked? How's
Yeah,
that?
neither Jeremy nor I were here when that was
Yeah.
done either.
Exactly, yeah.
We know
And
that.
so last time we had to speculate, well, why might that have been?
I
And
mean,
Yeah.
currently I can look at that and say most of those are homes, except for
Right.
Horns,
Except for right there on
Radiator,
Hull.
and, is that Continental?
and that was why, because it was zoned industrial, but in practice it's residential.
Right, so that was our conclusion, that as to this block, it was probably the proximity to the church. Although the church being there really only
Just by-
affects dispensaries, I believe,
Dispensaries,
Jeremy. It
doesn't-
doesn't affect
yes.
grow facilities
Correct.
being located there. As to the other block, I think Mr. Sharitz, as you say, that, well, it was observed that those weren't really industrial structures, so
Right.
they would be unlikely to be reused for marijuana purposes.
Exactly.
But could be purchased and demolished and someone could build a marijuana grow facility there, correct or not?
Certainly.
Right, and I'm not saying I hold that view, I'm just speculating that was the view
Yeah.
of whoever designed the overlay.
Right, and if we
Yeah.
have
Probably
that set
David
up
Ward.
as an industrial
Yeah.
instead of residential, then isn't that what our goal is?
Yeah,
That's our intention for
Yep.
those to not be houses anymore. So
true.
again, that doesn't really hold a whole lot of
Water?
weight. Yeah, water, weight, either, yeah.
One of them.
I mean, if that's our intention, then that doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense to me either.
Because if you look at the strip at the bottom here, 1014,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's across the street from residential.
Yeah,
And so the same situation, again, we were not necessarily there.
right, we didn't.
And certainly staff was not there when this decision was made,
Right.
but
Right,
yeah, I mean, if there was ever a reason to revisit, maybe this would be one of the
time to
glaring
do so.
ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's what it
Yeah.
feels like to me. We should be taking a look at this because it's odd that it's not included in the
Right.
first place.
Well, I guess my next comment would be, How do we go about doing this?
Well, if that's what the general consensus of the planning commission is, we would ask staff to review that and bring it back to us as a proposal. And it would be a reason, just like we're talking about this one piece of property, it would be a recommendation to the city commission to expand the east side overlay district to include other properties.
Would we
Yes.
also look at the west side overlay just to,
I
Well,
think it would be a good idea to review
I mean, I
all.
just,
Yep.
you know, without having it
I
in
mean-
front of me here.
We can, but pretty much everything already is that.
Well, yeah.
I'm not sure there's a whole lot to
I mean,
look
I
at on
agree.
this.
I'm not-
Yeah, a
I'm
little bit
not-
different than you said.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I'm
mean,
not
none of us
saying-
would want the industrial park where Capnick's and the hotel is to have something in there. I mean, that would be the, I mean, is there anything in there now?
No.
Well, just the front, no, it's just on the south side.
Aren't those residential though?
Yeah, a lot of
Oh,
that's
yes, that's-
residential.
we did change
now.
those
Well, and there,
residential,
those
so
areas
not-
kind of have been looked at in terms of
Yeah.
rezoning, yeah, for the most part. If you were going to move forward with a recommendation with respect to other properties besides just the one that petition, we would have to renotice the public hearing
Right.
because it would
Yes.
Right.
affect a lot more
Absolutely.
property than just this one.
Well, and I would look for a specific proposal as, of what should be included too.
Would we table this for now?
No,
No?
We would deny this,
we could.
Yeah, this.
but if in the if 2 months from now, we decide to include it in the overlay district, then he's gotten his, in effect, gotten his request.
Yeah, because that's the way I'm looking at it. We
Yeah.
can't just do this one property
Right.
because of spot
Yeah.
zoning, but we need to,
Well, yeah.
we need to reevaluate them.
I don't think you have to deny it if you're going to engage in further study as it relates to including it in
Oh,
a
okay.
broader
So-
rezoning.
So,
Okay.
so
Think
could we
you
table it then?
Yes.
Commissioner Love, your thoughts?
I have no different thoughts than have been discussed.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Roberts?
I'm thrilled that Mrs. Cotton has pretty much said what I was thinking.
Okay.
Is that this is industrial.
Yep.
And none, well, maybe, I know I wasn't around when the overlay wasn't created, so I don't know what the reasoning was. And I'm not sure that any of us really know what that reasoning was. So
Well,
maybe,
I think
I
we
don't
do.
know.
Yeah. I think our reasoning was that there, a lot of that property that we're talking about is in practice residential.
Mhm.
Which is correct. I do think that we shouldn't necessarily look at all of the overlay. I don't know that is a necessary procedure because that could delay process possibly. I agree also that we need to be more business friendly. And if this is property that we can gain more tax dollars from as represented by Terry, I'm okay with that. However, saying that, I've had many discussions with people saying they don't want any more marijuana. So there is that too.
Mhm.
So we need to be prepared to be able to say, well, there could be more marijuana business in town. Do you want marijuana businesses or do you want better roads and new parks?
Yeah.
Can't have both always. So that's my
Commissioner
comment.
Weatherby?
I think the tax issue is certainly of great interest and it is a substantial argument. However, I'm not sure that that can be the guide that we use for making recommendations on this sort of thing. I'd like to have more money. I very much would, but I don't want that to be, I guess, the major reason that we're looking at something this important. And I think the implication that we've created this zoning, and I know that, some commissioners worked very hard looking at the zoning, but the implication that we've created the zoning and then just let it sit as a static document for all the time since it was adopted, I don't think that's true. I think we've had many instances that things have come to us.
We've had this discussion 2 years
And
ago. Yeah.
we've had to look at this overlay. So I think we have some ideas. Because of that, I think Brian said, let's just let it sit for a while and see what come to the surface. And it's a legitimate time maybe to let it come to the surface. I would suggest if we're going to do it, I think we might as well look at the whole overlay. It might be that parts of it take no time at all to look at and have that kind of conversation about it. But let's make sure that we are giving it, just attention. I think the arguments are profound. Mr. Bunchu, who would like to have a nicer property next door to him. I think that's a profound argument, and I think the tax issue is a profound argument also. I just am always, cautious that if the dollars mean more than, what else is maybe important, but so that's my suggestion. If we're going to take a look at this, let's take a look at the whole thing. Let's make a recommendation to do that as soon as possible so that we can get it back on the agendas and moving forward. And there you go.
Mr. Johnson, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
I don't have anything to add. I concur with the group that we ought to look into it and get a recommendation on potentially expanding it.
Okay. Staff, are we able and willing to respond to that?
We are, if
Okay.
that is your desire.
Okay. It sounds to me that if I can summarize the consensus here, that we would like to table this particular request and ask that staff prepare for us a evaluation and potential recommendation for not necessarily expansion, but a change to the east side marijuana overlay district. Does that sound like?
Did you say expansion or just?
Well, I didn't want to say that. I just
I
wanted
would
to
say
say,
revision.
yeah,
Revision.
revision, potential, could be contraction even, yeah, or changes, revisions, it would be a good word, to the east side marijuana overlay district. If that's the consensus, then one, we would entertain a motion to table this particular request.
So move.
Support.
We have a motion and support from Taylor and Cotton. Is there any discussion on the motion to table?
Would you completely state the recommendation then?
Well, that's just the motion to table.
Right, that's what I mean. Would you completely state what's in the motion to table?
This
Table the-
request.
Table the request,
Table the request.
to
and
table
zone this.
simply this request.
Okay. We need to be more specific in what we are
Well, I'm
moving, so.
okay, the
I'm-
motion was to table this particular petition to have this property added to the overlay district.
Right, to add
Okay.
this property.
Yes,
at it.
exactly. And that's
Certainly.
all that's on the table at the moment.
Certainly.
And that's exactly what I said and
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton agreed with me, right?
Okay,
Yep,
okay.
not with it.
So good question though, Nancy.
Jeremiah, a roll call vote on the motion to table?
Watson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Support.
Cotton,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Jacobitz,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Weatherby,
Support.
motion carried.
Okay, thank you. And then, again, if we have general consensus, we would entertain a motion to ask staff to review the east side marijuana overlay district and to come back to us with potential recommendations for revisions of the same.
So moved.
Support.
Cotton and Taylor. Any discussion on that?
But it's only to review the east side then?
Yes. Do people want us to review the west side? I don't think.
My concern had been, let's look at the whole thing. I know that it's going to be maybe a quick trip through the
West side?
to the west side, but still, should we not be looking at the whole thing? It was created as a whole kind of planned document. And I think that, why would we exclude that?
I think that would justify how we say that it's not a stagnant document as well.
Right.
Yeah, I would
And so
agree.
that when it comes forward again, if
Okay.
someone had a petition for the west side, we can say it was reviewed
Okay.
within so many years.
Yeah.
Is that your motion then, Mrs. Weatherby?
You have a motion on the,
Only on
On
the
the table.
side.
You move to amend. the motion.
right.
Yeah, that was on the east side. Okay,
I would like to, I move to amend the motion that's on the table,
okay.
which is to submit a recommendation to review the
Both sides.
entire overlay, marijuana overlay district.
Mhm. Both the
Is
east
that-
and west side.
Is
Yeah.
that succinct?
Support.
Okay,
Can I do that? Support.
yes, yes. Okay, is there any discussion on that? This is again, a request to staff to review and make recommendations for any revisions. Hearing no discussion.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Cotton,
Yes.
Jacobitz,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Weatherby,
Support.
Johnson,
Support.
Watson. Motion passed unanimously.
Okay. Sir, that doesn't immediately answer your question for this evening, but
Can I speak?
please.
Okay, well.
Because I think it's clear that we're not willing to change your property in and of by itself.
I understand, but I think what you've enacted or what you're gonna do moving forward, I think is very positive. I want to thank you. Honestly, I came here, I thought you were,
There's no guarantees that.
I understand,
What you're
but
looking for is what you get out
even
of it
having,
either, so.
even having the consideration instead of just coming here, I really felt that 2 years ago that there was no consideration given. And at least this time around, I think you've listened, whereas previously I felt very dismissed. And I do appreciate your discussion and everything that, you guys have talked about, and I look forward to going through the process. Thank you.
Okay, very well. We'll see where it goes. Like I said, it's not a guarantee in any way, shape or form, but it's something for us to consider.
Jeremiah, can you send out the overlay maps tomorrow? The
Yes.
current ones?
Yep.
Thank you.
Do we have big drawings? of it? No, we don't. Site plan. Oh, that's it. Okay, very well. Next item on our agenda is case number 2205, a William Street Mahan Hall addition at Adrian College. I see Mr. Hess here. I presume that you are the spokesperson for this project.
Stand up.
Yeah. Jason, if you don't mind, we have 2 pages.
Yes, sir.
This one, this one. Give us the brief overview.
Okay, Adrian College would like to put a roughly 4,500 square foot addition on the south side of the existing Mahan Hall building, including renovation of a portion of the interior of the existing structure. I'm aware of one open item remaining from the plan review process. I think myself, at least, and many people at the college were unaware that the sanitary and storm sewers that run onto the Adrian College property are actually municipal services. So the college is working with staff on rewriting those easements, which is in process. So that will survive your approval to get that paperwork completed to staff's support.
Questions?
I would only comment, it's nice to see this taking place. My wife used to work in that building. They've been waiting for a long time.
Yes, they have.
Staff has reviewed this, and the sewer stuff must be a late finding, I take it.
Yeah, they were discussing that and I spoke with the utilities director and Parks Engineering, well, it's not Parks anymore, Engineering Services, and they are working with Jason on that. So
Okay.
they're fine to proceed with our site plan process.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the planning commission on the site plan review? Commissioners, again, staff has reviewed this and had no issues. And if we wish to adopt the resolution that staff has provided, I don't see any reason that we could not. And entertain a motion to that effect.
Move to adopt the site plan as presented.
Support.
Mr. Taylor and Ms. Cotton, is there any discussion?
Johnson,
Support.
Cotton,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Jacobitz.
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Weatherby,
Support.
Watson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Folks, I distributed to you via email the annual planning commission report to the city commission. I heard back from Mrs. Weatherby and Mr. Clemens with just a couple. Oh, and Mr. Taylor,
Yes,
they,
sir.
the other people sent in corrections.
Oh, no corrections. I just lauded you
Which-
for your.
But thank you, Don. And they were mostly typos or grammatical
It
things, nothing of any kind of structure.
was a draft. So.
Yes, it was.
Did it include a page 2? I believe it's the first paragraph. There's a different acronym used.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you use CAPC when through the rest of the document. You use,
CPAC.
there's one, well, use that one, and then I think it's in the second paragraph, you use a different.
So there's one somewhere, you say?
Yeah,
AC, right, maybe right there.
Yes,
CAPC.
okay, I should be consistent. Got it.
City
yeah,
manager.
it's just, it's the
Page three.
acronym. used
Yep,
for-
got it. Thank
For
you,
the
Bob. I'll
planning
take care of that as well. Thank you. Is there any things that, other things that weren't included that should be? Folks?
Found it concise and thorough, thank you.
Okay, I will make those corrections and forward that to the city commission. Any other business to come before us this evening? Anyone in the audience that wishes to address the planning commission? Good evening, Mrs. Bonnet. Nice to see you there.
Good evening. Glad to listen in and learn.
Okay. If there is no other business to come before us, folks, we are adjourned. Our meeting for next month, I believe, is the 1st of February. So see you then.
You'll be here for that.